Hello everyone. I don't know if I'm audible enough. Can anyone unmute and confirm they can hear me?
Harmon, you're audible.
Okay, cool. So good afternoon to you all. So yeah, I will be one of the judges for this round with Coach Joseph. So yes, can I confirm team proposition is here? Captain, please unmute and tell us.
Proposition is present minus our third teammate, but he's on his way.
Okay. I hope you will be joining us soon, right?
Yes, he said he's joining.
Okay, cool. And opposition, Captain, please unmute and confirm that your teammates are here.
Yes, Hamud, we're all here.
Okay, cool. So until probably the third speaker from Affirmative gets in, can we have a quick introduction starting from the Affirmative bench, having first speaker, second, then we go to opposition. Mason, please unmute and introduce yourself and the speaker role you'll be doing.
Okay, so my name is Nagginda. I'm going to be doing second speech in this debate.
Okay, can we have the speaker for proposition?
My name I mostly breathe doing first speech.
Okay, thank you. And we have the first speaker from the opposition bench introduce themselves.
Okay, my name is Samrawit, and I'll be doing first opposition speaker.
Okay, cool. Can we have the second speaker and then third speaker?
Name is Alinda Larry Musimenta, and I'll be doing second speech.
Oh, my name is Mulisa Jonah. I'll be doing the third speech.
Okay, thank you all. So Mason, I don't know if your speaker will join us and we start the debate, or you guys are going to like sort of iron.
If you could please give him like 2 more minutes. If he doesn't show up, I'll iron and do the third speech.
Okay, cool.
Oh, he's in. I guess we can now begin.
Okay, cool. Each speaker shall be using 6 minutes of speech. Reply speech will be strictly 3 minutes. So can we have the third speaker from opposition read to us the motion?
Hamud, did you say first speak opposition, right?
Yeah, it's okay. Yeah.
Okay. The motion goes: this House believes that American school boards should ban the teaching of critical race theory in schools.
Okay, thank you. Proposition, is that the same motion you have?
Yes, that's the same exact motion we have.
Okay, cool. So do you guys want me to like time you, or you have your personal timers?
You could time us.
Okay, cool. So yeah, 6 minutes of speech and reply will be
Personal
there.
timer.
Okay, I think I'll also as well be timing, but when your time is done, yeah, you can then um I'll indicate if you still continue talking, right? So yeah, 6 minutes, then 3 minutes reply speech. So can we have the first speaker from the affirmative side here?
Okay, am I audible? My time will be starting in. My time will be starting in 3, 2, 1. CRT, critical race theory. What does this stand for? This is roughly an academic framework which is meant to examine how race and racism function in a modern society. This is meant to show the impact racism continues to have in today's society. This continues to show the historical legacies that racism has left behind in our world. This shows how slaves coming from Africa to the Americas continues to have an impact today. This comes and shows us how a particular race being taken away from their land has an impact. This comes and shows all these injustices in hopes of trying to promote a sense of knowledge which can actually come and prevent such injustices being done again. But now, as an American school board, we have sat down in today's motion and we have decided we want to ban this. Now, why would we want to ban this? Now, first of all, we need to have a picture of what an American school board is. First of all, an American school board, we are the people who are setting up the roles and the policies that an education system should follow. We are setting up our targets based off principles. And what are these principles? This is what promotes the best form of development in the future, what brings up change which is sustainable and actually useful to society that we live in. And now we have come to realize that continuing to have a CRT being taught into children, first of all, isn't justified, that this doesn't actually come with the role that we are trying to meet as an American school board. Now, first of all, what do we mean by ban inside affirmative? In this context, simply by banning, we mean we're actually taking this out of the entire education system. We want this done away with. We don't want this being hinted on anywhere else. We don't want this being hard at all. We want this good riddance. Now, first of all, why would we ban this? First of all, as an American school board, we are using the 3 principles we would use to ban this. Principle number 1, hasn't it fulfilled its purpose? No, it has not. System 2, has it done more harm than good? Yes, it has. Then principle number 3, is it justified? No, it's not justified. So at the end of the day, these are the 3 causes we look at aside affirmative when we come to realize we actually have to ban this. Now, why hasn't it fulfilled its purpose? Now, this is where I come with a little preemptive. Side negative is going to come in today's debate and say that the reason we are keeping this is because it gives people a sense of knowledge on racial injustices which have been done. It gives people a knowledge on how racism continues to play out in today's society and its function. That's where they are going to come in. So they come to believe that in this world, the world is going to actually have a knowledge to prevent such mistakes from being done again in the future. That's simply what they believe is going to happen. But then, yes, that is a good thing which would come out and happen. But now, this actually hasn't come fulfilled its purpose. At the end of the day, we shall realize that people aren't going to continue to do these injustices now because they have a knowledge and preventing them from side negative. But then when you come to see the more levels of analysis which I shall bring about and the danger this brings about, this is what comes to happen. These people won't actually do this, but now you come to realize now there's going to be a little bit of bias. Now, at the end of the day, we are constantly reminding the masses about the injustices which have been brought towards them. We have come to show them how in society that the social aspect of life actually doesn't favor you as a racist, as a particular race. You actually become to be looked at as a minority. At the end of the day, you come to realize a minority group is going to actually believe they're going to be free, but they're constantly going to be given a reminder that this is how you're looked at into society. This is what we took from in society. So at the end of the day, on principle alone, we are already continuing to remind people of the misery that they have actually undergone for actually no particular reason. Now, number 2, has it done more harm than good? Now, as we have already said, the benefit side negative would come to bring about is that it gives people knowledge to prevent such from happening. But then when you already look into current status quo, you come to realize racial minorities are still actually being undermined on where they sit today. So at the end of the day, you come to realize that side negatives world already in status quo isn't working because people do have the knowledge, but racial minorities are still living under oppression and so on. So already the good they would come and try to picture us in today's world. In status quo, you can already see that already doesn't exist. But now, when we continue to remind a racial minority on how it has been dealt with, what unjust has been treated unjust in the past, what do we come to realize? We come to realize this is going to be a group of people who would actually now are going to be more inclined to go against the government, which has already been pictured to have gone against them in the past, for maybe a group which can actually seem to favor them more. So at the end of that, so we come to realize we're going to actually have people aligning themselves with terrorists such as Osama bin Laden. And then because they have already been painted a picture according to history, these people have already been inclined to support our race more. So already we put the government in a state of jeopardy by keeping this here to lose its sovereignty and power over the people. So now a government which doesn't have the trust in the people, this is now a government which already doesn't have the power to actually meet the best needs of the people. So already we see the harm actually more than the good. Now harm number 2 that we already come to bring about is now, since the lines are already being now at extreme cases of people who are going to feel they want that inner justice amongst them. So these are people who are now going to be set out to go kill other people of other races because they're being taught that you're already a minority in society, that you've been robbed. So at the end of the day, these extreme cases, when you also put into account of them, these are people who are going to go and try to feel a level of vigilante and getting justice. Then on that argumentation on principle, why would we ban it according to principle? According to principle, we have shown you on status quo. This has not actually tried to bring out what side negative would try to paint out in today's picture. A world which is actually going to have less racial minorities stop being non-treated. We come to realize this is a world where these people are just going to continue being fed the information that you are a minority. So at the end of the day, we believe it's better we actually stop putting these people through this pain and suffering and actually just give them an education system which won't continue giving them the injustices they have suffered. And then, in conclusion, said affirmative, we bring to you what a CRT looks like and an American board, how this already goes against the principles we believe in. We tell you we would ban this for the reason that it hasn't fulfilled its entire purpose. Then we also come and try to engage to what side negative would come to do, and we show you that the purpose it would have done is already short term, but then we come and show you more extended effects of how it hasn't actually done its purpose. Then lastly, we give you the harms, how it has done more harm than good, and then I try to give you the weight of the harms and the good. At the end of that, so would it be better to have people who have knowledge but continue to do this according to status quo, while people continue to run, or would we just rather have this delta away with? Then lastly, we give you on principle, it's not fair for us to continue reminding a minority of the pain and suffering it has undergone. I rest my case.
Okay, thank you for that speech. Because when your time is done and I kindly unmute and say your time is done, please kindly do us the favor and stop your case from there, right? Thank you so much. So can we have the first speaker from the opposition bench here?
Okay, so can I confirm audibility?
Yes, you are audible.
Okay, so 6 minutes you said.
Yes, please.
Okay, let me set my timer and okay, so I'm going to start my speech in 3, 2, 1. Chair, Team Affirmative paints to a world where I give them a sweet, and then that sweet literally has quinine as you end up chewing it. Panel. Today's motion states that this House believes that American school boards should ban teaching of critical race theory in school. Things I'm going to do in my speech. First, I'm going to engage their case and do a little rebuttal, and then show you why as team opposition, why we think that these American school boards should not actually ban the teaching of critical race theory in schools, and why we think it's actually for a greater advantage and better impact at the end of the day. So 3 things team Affirmative comes and tells us. Affirmative comes and tells us, 1, that it actually hasn't fulfilled its purpose. 2, they come and tell us it has done more harm than good, and then 3, it's unjustified, which clearly shows them that they actually have a verified case. But first and foremost, when they come and tell us that it actually hasn't fulfilled its purpose, Chair, the critical race theory is an academic framework that actually emerged in the United States in the 1980s. It analyzes and critiques the ways in which race intersects with and influences social structures, i.e., level of class, of how even people actually are organized in according to their race. So, Chair, in order to respond to that, I'm going to give you a simple statistics. Why? First of all, according to the U.S. Indigenous and Race Institute, from 1995 to 2018, there has been a record of a decline of 20% in racism incidents. It means that due to the existence of this critical race theory that was put into the academic institutions in 1980s, it shows that it has actually fulfilled its purpose by giving them a comprehensive knowledge about how race actually intersects with various institutions logically. So it means that due to the existence of this critical race theory, it clearly has actually open-minded these people of the United States of America, starting from their childhood, right? It means that these people are able to actually have comprehensive knowledge on how race actually, probably how race influences these various social structures. And then secondly, they come and tell us that it has done more harm than good. Well, that has actually just been an assertion that is actually false. Why? Because this critical race theory aims to actually show students on how this race intersects with these social structures. What does that mean? It means that this critical race theory gives you historical examination on how this race has actually been influential in various setups. What does that mean? It means that due to the existence of this critical race theory, students have gained the knowledge on how racism has actually impacted and shaped institutions, how race and racism has shaped institutions and policies, and then therefore these people do have a clear understanding on how racism has actually done bad effects due to the historical context they actually get through these lessons that they get from the critical race theory. So at the end of the day, it means that there's actually better impact through the comprehensive knowledge they get at the end of the day, and how this racism and race has actually shaped their policies and institutions. And then therefore, I think we have seen that there's actually been a decline of racism incidents at the end of the day, and that clearly justifies to you that this teaching of critical race theory has actually done better and not harm. And that is why we think that opposition, we don't think that we should actually ban the teaching. And then thirdly, they come and say that it's not actually justified for us to teach this critical race theory in schools. Sure, America has been the country with the greatest racism influences or incidents back in the 1900s. What does that mean? It means that America is a country whereby we see various divisions in the country. So what does that mean? We don't want to have a futuristic generation where we all just need a world whereby we don't need a world whereby all people are actually divided according to their races, but we go ahead to promote a just and equitable society. I tell you that this academic framework was put in the United States in 1980s, knowing that they understand that racism has been a problem in their country. They put it under academics. Why? They think that the people who are going to come out of schools should have the basic knowledge on how to actually perceive various perspectives and probably put it in a better situation. So what does that mean? It means it has actually been very justified, and we think that at the end of the day, this critical race theory should not actually be banned. So back to opposition. Why do we think as opposition we wouldn't ban this teaching of critical race theory in schools? Three arguments from our side. One, it promotes a comprehensive education for a futuristic better world. Two, it prepares a diverse world of students with various perspectives on how to navigate complexities. But then three, it improves understanding and it promotes understanding and inclusive dialogue. So first and foremost, why do we think that we promote a comprehensive education and futuristic better world? Sure, America historically is known for the greatest racism or race influences across the world. So what does that mean? It means that in order to actually promote comprehensive education for a futuristic better world, we think that teaching of race theory in schools actually promotes this. How does it promote it? It gives knowledge to various students on how the history of racism or race has actually been brought in the United States. At the end of the day, what happens is that due to the various knowledge and they're actually exposed, it means that these people are going to have diverse knowledge and diverse issues that they're supposed to actually handle. And what is going to happen at the end of the day is that these people are actually going to have this understanding dialogue with each other in order to navigate such problems. So at the end of the day, once these students are out of school, it means that such acts of racism and racism does not actually exist. And at the end of the day, we think that it's going to be better for the American society. But then secondly, it prepares a diverse world. How does that prepare a diverse world? It means that these students are able to navigate various paths and complexities at the end of the day. It means that they're able to understand that due to the diverse races, at the end of the day, they can understand that they are able to actually come to a consensus and put their differences aside and understand each and everything, like understand and respect each other. And that is why we think affirmative, as opposition, we wouldn't ban this teaching of critical race theory. And at the end of the day, we come and show you that we promote comprehensive education and preparation of diverse world. And that is going to be extended throughout opposition side. With that, I beg to submit.
Okay, thank you for that speech. Can we have the second speaker from proposition here?
I hope I am audible.
Yes, you
So
are.
I'm going to begin my speech in 3, 2, 1. Hand. When boy X constantly reminds boy Y that his grandfather was put in chains, denied jobs, and forced into shackles of discrimination, probably killed by a certain race, boy Y will grow up with a memory embedded in his head on how the entire race is a murderer. The idea here is that when there is a constant indoctrination into society, into children, on injustices that were created by a certain race and whatnot, it just creates an even more biasness rather than the equality we actually dream of or that America would certainly possibly have. We think that we cannot have such a society. We think enough is enough. We need to ban TRT, free, proud to propose. Things that I'm going to do in this debate. What I'm going to do rebuttal, so I'm going to clearly give a bigger nuance on what TRT looks. Before which, let me just give a big nuance as to what a bigger nuance as to what TRT actually does look like into this debate. We think this looks like three things. Firstly, it creates some sort of dishonesty between minorities and institutions, something opposition fails to understand. What does this look like? Notice there's a point in time, like Davis tells you in his first speech, at the point in time, these particular students are constantly reminded that, oh, your father was killed by so and whatnot, or maybe your grandfather was killed by this particular rescue slave trade, or maybe put in chains at a certain point in time. This means that these particular children are going to develop that certain biasness growing up. This is why you still have things like the African American still are parading on streets and whatnot, because they think that the American government is one that is set against them rather than for them. We think that at that point in time, it shows you how problematic society has become in America itself, and also every single institution that has charity embedded into its academic curriculum. Then, secondly, we think that this only opens up wounds that are practically that constantly remind you that Africans or maybe blacks or maybe Asians went through this and this and this as a minority race in America. This looks like every single time being reminded what Martin Luther King went through, or maybe what Malcolm X went through when he's trying to fight for justice. It only creates a particular picture or the particular enmity that I tell you in my opening on how a certain nation is then going to be headed at a point in time. But then thirdly, this looks like some sort of indoctrination into society, into children, on constantly reminding them that this particular race is the reason as to why you then have this, but you then have these problems into society, as to how you have this certain biasness into society. Why is this then harmful? Not taken. Why is it necessarily harmful? You get to see that these particular people are going to grow up into society, and every single thing, let me say a minority race, every single thing that is happening into this particular society, like a black and whatnot, they're going to blame it on the biasness, and they're going to assume everything is concerned biasness. For instance, in case they haven't got a job, they would still blame it on biasness and not necessarily wanting to improve their skills because they're constantly guarded upon the indoctrination that they were given in primary school or maybe elementary school, as they call it, on how biased their particular systems were and what. But then with rebuttal, Samrawit comes and tells us that, oh, you know what? CRT creates the idea on how race fits into society, statistics on how race has been maybe catered for and what, how racial injustice is something that has been ended at the end of the day, or something that has reduced. This is a very feeble and problematic response. The idea that she's actually giving credit for all those particular black movements that went ahead to fight and stand up for to CRT is something that is entirely problematic in this venture. Knows not taken Samrawit. Knows the history of what CRT is. Sorry, the history of blacks in America. It's not because of the CRT that is actually existing in society. It's rather than more of the black movements, the likes of Malcolm X, the likes of Martin Luther King, that came ahead to speak up and have the kinds of dreams like I have a dream, to actually be given space into society so that they can practically engage. This is something that Samrawit fails to understand, and we think that this is something that he has statistics that she tries to bring up into this debate, probably from Google, is something that we cannot necessarily take ahead into this debate. But secondly, on the whole idea of America needs a just and an equitable framework, and it was put in the 1900s to have some sort of indoctrination between the people, so that at the end of the day you can promote comprehensive education knowledge to the various skills. So it's just such a thing that she tells us into her debate and one word. We tell you that okay, yes, we understand that education is something that is very very important to this particular minorities and whatnot, or
Yeah.
this particular. But why is it something again that is problematic? Like I tell you earlier on, this education only ends up opening up wounds. What does this then necessarily mean? It means that you're going to grow up with this sort of this sort of background that this is a certain race that probably killed my parents or my grandparents, that changed them and whatnot. What does this then necessarily mean? Why is this necessarily bad and harmful at the end of the day? It means that you're going to have this sort of biasness against a certain race. At a point in time, it even changes from performing your very best, because you will talk every single time you're denied a job or what, you'll base it on, oh, I am a black, that's why I'm being denied a rest, or I'm an Asian, I do not belong into this society, that's why I'm being denied a job. Then secondly, the whole impact of this, it means that you're also going to have, white are going to constantly discussing your particular biasness at the end of the day, which means at the end of the day, you're not going to have the equality that you actually do dream of. But why is our side of the house then better without the CRT? We tell you, but without CRT, do not then have this particular sort of occurrences of being reminded, oh, that the reason as to why this biasness in society is because of this particular certain race. It then means if you're going to have more equality because of those particular open wounds that are not necessarily brought into society. Then, sadly, something that she brings about into this debate chair that we should not necessarily consider is when navigating uncertainties and complexities. And with that, chair, I rest my case.
Okay, thank you for that fine speech. Can we have the second speaker from the opposition bench?
First, I want to confirm if I'm audible.
Yes, you are.
Okay. Set up this timer. I like to start my speech in 3, 2, 1. Chair, now notice what the second proposition speaker just mentioned. The necessity of teaching children about black movements such as Martin Luther King and all these other black icons. But you notice that individuals actually teach these students about these people because their actions and activities in the past shape how society is currently working today. So we necessarily find it important that students understand the necessity of the existence of Martin Luther King and many other black icons throughout history and the impact they had within their world. Now, moving on to a bit of rebuttal, notice I talked about how it causes indoctrination in children and causes biases within them. But firstly, it does not, because notice the nature of a school system. A school system is where people come together, they come to learn, and they come to think with each other. Now, notice if students are being exposed to ideas such as racism and that was existent, it's going to necessarily cause discussions among them. They want to question the reason why this racism was inherently there, yet they notice that there is no particular difference between them and now. Now, notice that discussion between the students is inherently important because it would help to remove biases that any person might have with them because they're able to understand each other better. They'll notice that the shortcomings of the people in the past, and noticing the shortcomings of the people in the past necessarily helps them to become better because they now have an understanding of why they went wrong. Notice they talked about how it causes dishonesty between institutions and minorities. This is inherently false. Why? Because now students who are being taught the critical race theory are necessarily becoming less racist or less prejudiced against other people because they understand the shortcomings that came about in the past due to the wrong thinking or poor thinking that was present between their ancestors. So necessarily meaning that the people who are moving on to these institutions are necessarily going to have a better understanding of these issues and are less likely to try to repeat the mistakes of the past. Necessarily meaning that any bias that they might have had or any main problems they might have had in the past necessarily are going to be cancelled out because the future generations are being taught the necessarily harms over racism. Then they talk about opening old wounds within students. Now notice, if still happened, it is necessarily important to inform the students of their history so they can understand how to better live with it and how to better be aware with it. It's better for students to know these things so that they can understand why their parents suffered, so that they can understand why people suffered, why Martin Luther King stood up, because that understanding creates for them a sense of pride and a sense of growth as they are able to see how far they have come and how far they're able to achieve. So now if a student understands that people are able to actually do this, if black people actually like stand up and unite, people are able to do this, they're able to see all these black icons standing up, they necessarily have that belief within themselves that they're actually going to go better. So we find it necessarily important for them to have that critical understanding. Then they talked about indoctrination, whereby it creates black and white thinking
So
within students. And notice that this was inherently cancelled out because of very nature of education
I
institutions, whereby students engage in current in dialogue, whereby they have discussions about certain issues. So you find that students, as young students, high school students, are engaging in dialogues about racism and what impact it has had on their society. Now, when they engage in such
POI.
dialogues, they're going to develop a certain understanding that necessarily helps them to grow and become better individuals. Now, before I move on to my first argument, I take your POI.
Okay, so imagine you're an African American whose parents have fessed up very probably worst ideas of discrimination and whatnot into society. Would you necessarily check, and you've been informed how maybe your grandparents faced slave trade and whatnot and all the biasness into society? Would you shake hands with the very same people that caused these particular things, or would you just continue biasing them at the end of the, sorry, having biasness against them at the end of the
Notice,
day?
notice that notice because of all the social change that has happened between the past years in American history, you'll find that has been a growth between inclusion and diversity. So now notice that as they're entering into a diverse world and they understand the issues that their parents are being faced, they're less likely to actually repeat the mistakes that are being done, for example, by the whites for our fathers, the white past students for our fathers, and they're able to understand the strides that they have made, for example, the black people's ancestors, grandparents, etc. Now, moving on to the first argument, which my first speaker was talking about, was the comprehensive education. By necessarily banning this education, you limit the breadth of this education because now this education allows for students to understand historical and contemporary issues related to race and racism. The importance of this understanding, it allows for nuanced perspectives within these students, and it also encourages critical thinking and an understanding of societal issues. The impact of this argument, it allows for well-rounded students who are able to adequately understand the issues that are being faced within the previous societies. Then moving on to the next argument, which my first speaker was trying to talk about and I've been alluding to, was the understanding and inclusive dialogue that it encourages. It just encourages discussions about racial issues and fosters a more inclusive environment. How is this the case? Because students are able to see the shortcomings that have come due to previous acts of racism, they're able to understand why it is necessary to remove this vice from the vicinity. Now, when they do that, they're going to have more inclusive efforts, especially when they move into the real world, which is why it is necessarily important for academic school boards to continue to have this thing. The importance of this, it encourages conversations about race, privileges, and the systematic inequalities. The impact of this is that it allows for the students to actually come together and create a form of empathy, understanding, and respect for people from diverse backgrounds. Now, moving on to the last argument, which was the preparation for the diverse world. Notice that America is a very diverse society with different racial minorities and different groups of races. So it allows for people to understand these different racial dynamics, effectively allowing constant communication and collaboration to tackle the issues that are being faced in the past. The importance of preparation for a diverse world, which is the main point or the main goal of an education system, which is why the American school board should not ban this. It equips students with the knowledge and tools needed to navigate this increasingly multicultural and diverse world. Necessarily, in the impact of this, it fosters a more tolerant and harmonious society. So notice that on our side, we have all these advantages that come with the continuous teaching of the CRT system, while on their side, they're going to form a more ignorant society who does not know about their racial background, does not know about the prejudices that their parents have went through, and does not know the importance and impact that black people have had on their society. While on our side, we have a better world. With that, I rest my case.
Thank you for that speech. Can we have the third speaker from the proposition bench? Third speaker?
Allow me just find.
Is a third speaker in the house?
Yes, he looks to be. I think he's speaking. Travin, I do not know. As if I heard him speak a bit.
Oh, I didn't hear anything, but okay, cool. Is he still speaking?
Oh, let me check if he's in.
Okay.
Is actually in. I guess he's just muted. Travin, try unmuting and speaking.
Chair, you're going to allow me speak because I cannot, listen to other members. Yeah. Panel, in tonight's debate, we are discussing a resolution. This House believes that American school boards should ban the teaching of critical race theory in schools. Panel, in tonight's debate, we have Team Affirmative show you the reasons why we think that really why we think that CRT has proven its irrelevancy because on the criteria that it has provided more harm than good, and also it has failed its objectives as a way of promoting social justice. Now, in tonight's debate, we have Team Negative come and tell us about things like comprehensive education. They want to promote inclusive dialogue. They also want to promote a diverse world whereby they're going to have collaboration and a lot of things, as they say. Now, in this other world, we show you how really this kind of emphasizing injustices each and every day into the young students, indoctrination of this kind of way, we find it difficulty because on the perspectives that these young minds are going to look to see the idea into. Now, in tonight's debate, we have a point of bias rising from Team Affirmative. We tell them that we are going to find out these young individuals are going to be biased about the government, about everything that is happening, because they have found out that they have been marginalized ever since the beginning. Now they talk about providing comprehensive education. Now, Pano, what is the purpose of education? It is simply to provide a broader perspective of something. But now, Pano, when you find out that this kind of broader perspective that Team Negative is trying to provide, it is trying to emphasize injustice, which is going to bring up, which is going to make students identify this kind of knowledge as and the knowledge is going to be a source of action, as we said, because we are going to find this kind of students will know that from ever since beginning we have faced such and such a challenge, and this is the time for us to act rightfully. Now they talk about promoting inclusive dialogue between these other different learners and so many different things. But now, panel, we find out through these different dialogues, we are going to find out that people are going to be knowing more of how they have suffered, and therefore this is going to be a source of acting. Now, panel, from time memorial, the speaker said that this kind of this CRT was institutionalized in 1982. That is the 20th, late 20th century. So we find out on the time frame when we still have racism, as they also conquer that we have racism currently. On that time frame, we find out that really it has not proven its relevancy, because we still have this kind of inequalities and injustice into the societies. And therefore, we find out if this mechanism has existed for over those years and it has promoted, and they think it has promoted comprehensive education and it has provided students with different perspectives on how things happen, and then we are still seeing that the same students that are obtaining this kind of education are still segregating themselves, are still promoting racism, and we are still having inequalities in the society. It means that really we don't have results on board that we can present that this and this and this and this. And then Team Negative fails to show us on what kind of population, what kind of extent, or what kind of percentage has this proven its relevancy, because we don't see it on the affirmative side, but they also ignore to provide that into their speeches. Now they talk about providing a diverse world whereby they're going to have collaborations, and therefore students are going to come up together and find out means of how to promote social justice. Now, panel, this can never happen, because we are going to find that students are going just to collaborate because they are minorities, or because they are marginalized groups, and therefore the students are going to organize themselves as they are, because they will find out that they have a similar characteristic of being segregated, or a similar characteristic of how they originate and how they fought to see, for example, the African Americans, how they they fault to see that and that. Now we find out that this kind of education entails and provides information, but now we see that we are going to find out a biased world, that it facilitates a biased world by providing specific ideological perspectives, potentially hindering students' ability to form independent decisions on how things move. Now, panel, we find that this kind of education is promoting a certain kind of knowledge to this kind of students. Now, panel, it depends on the students on how they are going to use this knowledge and how they are going to act towards it. But we find that there is more injustice that is being emphasized in this kind of knowledge, and therefore we are going to find out that because of the kind of injustice and knowledge that is provided, students are going to act differently, or even these other learners, when they grow up, or even when they reach in the world, they're going to act differently, and they're not going, because they will want again to see how best they can fight for their rights, maybe, or even what they think that deserve to them. But also we come and tell them in our speech that, panel, we say that we are going to face challenges of policy implementation, because we are going to find out that these people are going to know that, okay, the American government is not better for us, or it does not look at our side because we are a minority group, and therefore they are going to act differently, and we are going to find that such policies are not going to come up. But even, panel, we find out we are going to lose an independency of these different learners, because we are going to find out they are going to have to think that they are on their failures or anything that happens, because they are a minority group, they have strings attached to what the history talks about them, or even that, and that is going to hinder their competitiveness or even competence in the long run. Now, in tonight's debate, we think that on the kind of time frame that this kind of education has existed, but you still have racism, it has failed to give us the best of it, and also we see that it has caused more harm than good, because we are going to find out that we are going to have a lot of injustice rising up in the long run, because even these students are going to promote more segregation, because we provide to them knowledge on how all these things happen and how these things affect them in other ways. Now we find out this kind of knowledge is engineering bias. For example, the African Americans see that they are discriminated in society, and therefore they think that other kind of people, the other kind of group is special, and therefore we are promoting injustice in the long run. But also we see that we are facing problems in policy implementation, but also we see that with the comprehensive education that we think we are providing, it is just promoting knowledge that is not important, or does not facilitate proper nice dialogue about.
Okay, thank you.
Anything?
Yes,
Timer?
your time is up. Yes. Okay, thank you for that fine speech. Can we have the last speaker from the opposition?
Okay, let me first to confirm whether I'm audible.
Yes, you are.
Let's do my speech in 3, 2, and 1. Panel, what the team government fails to understand in this kind of motion is, first of all, what basically are the impacts of this kind of teaching, and then what do we usually do in this kind of teaching. First of all, what the third speaker comes out speaking is like, we have felt that the team opposition has failed to give them the kind of percentage of how this theory has been effective. But recently, starting with our first speaker, whereby she said that this has helped 20% to decrease in the kind of racism, which probably their third speaker didn't understand well. Whereby we say that due to this theory, we are seeing that there is a decrease of 20% in terms of racism. Then, panel, going back to our lines of argument, or starting with some kind of rebuttal. First of all, they are talking about dishonesty, bias, minority discrimination, and injustice. First of all, what they fail to understand is they fail to look at the kind of country America is, and then they fail to understand the role of education, which we try to clearly tell to them, whereby the role of education is to bring out knowledge and understanding to students, whereby this is the kind of knowledge that we need to understand so that they don't repeat the same mistakes that were done by their forefathers or grandparents, whereby in this kind of theory that is taught to them, they teach them basically what happened and what caused them and what can be done to prevent that kind of stuff, whereby this is something that is clearly explained, whereby we don't expect, or we are not going to say any kind of bias, minority or injustice in this. Basically, dear judge, going back to what we come up with, they came out and we talk about the impact and the importance of this. Basically, this is first of all, Going back to our lines of argument, promotion of comprehensive education, understanding and inclusive dialogue, and then preparation of a diverse world. Basically, dear panel, looking at this, comparing it with theirs, first of all, they come out and say that basing on the three principles, that first of all, it has not served its purpose. Then they do come out and say that it has done more harm than good, and then it is not justified. First of all, dear panel, to look at this, whereby they are saying that it has not served its purpose. Basically, we crash out that line of argument just because of the source code that we do prove to them, which is of 20% of the decline in the racism, whereby we clearly show to them that this thing has really showed some kind of impact, whereby we are seeing a certain kind of decrease in kind of racism, which they can also really tell. Basically, looking at the kind of state as America it is right now, basically the kind of racism that would have been in place would have been so far if this kind of theory has not been in schools taught to students. And also looking at them saying that it has done more harm than good. Basically, this is something that they don't really understand in terms of like teaching to these students. For them, what they look at is seeing this as creating dishonesty, bias, and then discrimination, of which this is something that has really helped students to understand not to do the same mistakes in this kind of era. Whereby if a student is told what basically led to slave trade and what basically led to such wars in like the Black Wars, what basically made King Ruther come out to start speaking for the blacks, he will still keep in that way, and then basically we him not to go back and do the same mistakes that he was told that were done by the same people. So basically leading to such a comprehensive education, and then understanding or preparing them for a diverse world. Then panel also looking at what they are saying that it has failed to be justified. First of all, dear panel, in our world as team opposition, we come out and clearly show to you that basically this theory has basically in fact developed the kind of politics of America, which the team government fails to come clearly to engage in. First of all, we show you that basically this has led to understanding and inclusive dialogue, whereby we are seeing that through this teaching and learning, then races get to know what basically came out, and then this in an inclusive dialogue within students, and then basically the kind of thing that they do come out with as discrimination and all that kind of stuff is beaten out in this kind of debate. And then also looking at the kind of preparing them for a diverse world. This prepares them to be ready in terms of anything that is going to come out in this kind of world. And then basically also it helps them get to know what should be done and what shouldn't be done again, so that they can live a very good best life for them. And this helps us not to see this kind of actions that they do come in and say that this is going to fuel violence actions, and then it will make them fail, it will make the government fail to reach its achievements, which is basically wrong. Because according to this kind of theory, it helps in fact students or learners move from school well knowing the impacts and well knowing the aims of the government, well knowing the benefits of the government and the policies the government has put in place so that it can help them be in a well, which the team government doesn't come to engage on. Then basically also the panel comparing what is coming out from the team of government and team opposition. One, first of all, we see that the team government comes in and brings out things that basically are looked into just for a mere look, but not deeply understood in this kind of debate. But basically with the team opposition that we do come out with, we look at things that are basically going to be a long run effect, whereby we are looking at this, which is going to promote, basically looking at this, that is going to promote, first of all, preparation of a diverse world, which is going to be a long run process, or that is going to lead a student in his whole life, that is going to guide him, in fact, in helping him that there shouldn't be other kind of stuff that is going to come out after studies. Then also weighing this debate, first of all, weighing this debate, we look at the effects of what team government comes out.
Your time is done.
I'm concluding, Chair. Basically, as I conclude, the clashes that we see in this debate and that makes us win this debate are only two. First of all, we clearly show them that this is going to lead to a preparation of a diverse world for these students, which they don't come clearly to engage us in. Basically, they do come out and say that this is just because it's going to lead to discrimination and then minority, which is not basically clearly getting out our line of argument, then also this is going to create, this is understanding and inclusive debate. With that, allow me to submit.
Okay, thank you for this fine speech. Can we have the reply speech from the opposition bench? 3 minutes.
Okay, so am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Okay, so I'm going to start my speech in 3, 2, 1. Panel, chair. Affirmative paints us a world where they want to live in a world of strawberries and chocolate. We have to understand, chair, that understanding the whole idea of critical race theory is of great advantage to the young generation that is actually coming up of schools. We have to understand, chair, that schools have a key role in shaping the future of very many young people. So understanding that this teaching of critical race theory is actually very beneficial, and I think at the end of the day, as team opposition, we don't think we should actually ban it. So what does affirmative comes and tells us? Affirmative comes and tells us, you know what, at the end of the day, we don't want to live in a world where there is biasness, we don't want to live in a world where there is discrimination or backlash. Well, HL, I come and tell you in my speech that there's in the statistics where we show you that there's been 20% decline since this academic framework was instilled in schools. What happens is that at a point in time, once there are instances or incidents of race incidents, what happens is that each and every race picks up, and each and every race has movements. Just like how blacks, like for example, the Black Lives Matter movement was actually a very good significance. Why? It even had the whites moving in that movement. What does that mean? That despite the race differences, it has been able to bring about a diverse world. It has gone ahead to bring about a world with diverse perspective, but then set your differences aside, and at the end of the day, solve the problems like solve the problems in status quo. So, chair, what do they come and tell you? They come and tell you that at the end of the day, we don't need biasness because these children are going to have these various issues instilled in their brains, and probably they're going to have various backlash or even how they socialize with society. Chair, we have to understand that despite each and every consequence they come and tell us, we have to understand that this race is actually something that you should actually significantly look at a point in time whereby these people do not understand their historical context, which affirmative clearly does not want to actually take ahead. They literally want to live in a world where it's all about sweetness, and they don't want even to expose these children to the real facts. They don't want to show them their real historical background. At a point in time, as team opposition, we show you why this historical context is very useful at the end of the day. And we think that at a point in time, once they are exposed, we don't think biasness and discrimination is going to actually happen, or the backlash they paint in their world. Rather, what is going to happen from our side of the house is that we're going to be able to solve all the discrimination sides, while each and everyone has their perspective. And at a point in time, once they have their perspective, they understand and come into consensus and probably have best solutions. And that is why we prepare such people for a diverse world and even navigate various complexities. But then secondly, we show you why we promote a comprehensive education for a better futurist world at the end of the day. That's why, as team opposition, we believe we do not want to ban this critical race theory in schools at the end of the day, since it achieves and even solves the race problems that they had in history. And that is why we clearly win the debate in today's round. With that, I beg to rest my case.
Okay, thank you so much for that reply speech. So can we have the reply speech from the proposition bench?
The opening of affirmative first speech, we came and gave you a little preemptive matter. We came and told you that at the end of the day, we shall believe side negative will say there has come out some good at the end of the day. But then side negative does come and show you that at the end of the day, from the 1980s till 2018, there has been a decrement by 20%. And then we come and tell you in our preemptive matter that the good has been there, but hasn't been a good of a significant impact. 20% is something, but now let's remember the 80% which hasn't been brought out in this. This is then 80% which is actually falling into everything side affirmative has said in today's case. This is a side affirmative which is being filled in with a bias that you are a racial minority, you're being treated what badly. So all that we presented to you in our case, first of all, its purpose. We showed you that its purpose of racism at the end of the day in our preemptive rebuttal. We showed you that it was made, but it wasn't made to actually a satisfactory amount. Already we won on that clash alone because of the statistics side about diversification, but now let's remember an 80%. 80%, these are people continuously remember the majority of injustice be, and end of the day, we come to realize this is an 80%, which is actually going to go against this 80% against the government, because these are people who believe that we're not actually going to be, we're not going to be treated right. So on that clash, we showed you that which goes against, when it goes onto the foundation of structure of society, we show you that 80% of what that the 80% of the people are what breaking it out because of what involvement in the CRT. Then when we give to you according to justice, we come to justification, they come and give you. These are 80% of people who are being seen that this is actually not working for in the past 8 years. So why should we continue to give these people the torch of being reminded that you are done to A, B, and C? You are done this and this. These are the people who are going to be more likely inclined to join a terrorist group because it goes against the government. Because CRT is teaching these people that at the end of the day, you are a minority. You are going to be treated like this. These are extremists who are going to put out their rage into other racial groups. These are all the that side negative doesn't account for in its side. Then on the class of diversification, they want to give us what an education system looks like, that people are going to have the ability to actually talk to their peers. Teachers are going to counsel these people. But now let us remember this. If who we are teaching this are going to be people who are all going to have a bias, now we come to realize that their conversations are going to be all built around that entire hatred. So already you see that indoctrination comes back into our side. But then if the teacher is going to be the one with a more impact into these learners in what they are teaching, now the teacher is now going to now plant into him his doctrine and bias. So at the end of that, so doctrine still stands in our case, because the education system, now you come to the level of involvement and dialogue will now come to who has more impact and who has more impact and regard towards this particular person's life. So it comes back to the point that people are actually going to go. Then on number 3, when we give you up, one thing side negative also doesn't come about number 3 is what when we bring out to the role of an American school board. That is a key role which was brought about inside affirmative, which side negative didn't tackle in today's debate. We come and school board stands for is actually making the rules and policy which an education system should stand by. And these roles are based off the following key aspects. I rest my case.
Speaker, the time is done.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for that fine speech. So once again, thank you to all the speakers for this round that we had. So yes, a few minutes. So please remain in the call, then we shall be back.